people started sharing it. It's everywhere.
I don't understand what happened.
You did. You don't know how much you've given my family and me.
You will be found. Let the sun come streaming in.
Dear Evan Hansen,
I've missed you so much.
365 days.
We're being pursued by just a massive robot.
Lightyear. Now, what do all three of these movies have in common? Those are just three of the movies that I consider so far to be the absolute bottom of the barrel in terms of the movies of the decade so far. And that is the subject of the special edition of Talking About the Movies, where, of course, we are continuing our celebration of 20 years of covering the biggest new releases of the weekend. And yes, I know there's a big new release this weekend with Mickey 17. I'm going to hold off on that review for at least a couple of weeks because I wanted to get this one out of the way pretty quickly because we're going to be doing a lot of these specials over the course of the year. And so I am going to get to Mickey 17 in the next couple of weeks, so don't worry about that. But in the meantime, in contrast to what we did last week by taking a look at the 10 best movies of the decade so far, today we're taking a look at the 10 films that I consider to be the bottom of the barrel, the absolute worst movies of the decade so far. And unlike the best movies list, where it was really hard to put a list together, this one was pretty fairly easy. When you look at all the movies that I have here, you're going to probably think to yourself, okay, yeah, I could believe everything he says about these being the absolute worst of the worst in the years in the 2020 so far. As I said last week, this decade in particular is kind of setting itself up to be. You can kind of get a sense that more movies are going more AI. They're going more standard scripts. There's more. Everyone's trying to focus more on getting the next event picture instead of actually trying to tell a story or something engaging or something intriguing. And a lot of the films I'm going to mention here today are films that are definitely of the example of literally are doing nothing but trying to get money off of you and just doing it in the worst possible way. And a lot of the movies on this list here are going to fit that category to a T. So without further ado, here are my selections for the top 10 worst movies of the decade so far, 2020 versus 2024. Starting off with number 10 on my list, a movie that probably a lot of you have already forgotten about, Dear Evan Hansen. Look, I try to be optimistic as much as I can and be less cynical than I can be when it comes to stuff like this. The musical clearly has a good message that it's trying to get across to its audience about, mental illness and youth suicide, things that's still very relevant even by today's world, but Universal did a great job of creating a movie that was somehow even worse than Cats. I don't know how they were able to accomplish that, but yeah, you did it, Universal. Cats at least had visuals, which ended up failing miserably, but it's a fascinating, so good it's bad type of miserable, and the casting was at least something in that movie. This movie has none of that whatsoever. There is no so bad it's good element here. It's just a bad movie with a horrible interpretation of the intended message. I hated every single character in this movie. There was not one likable person in this entire movie. Nobody I cared about. They were all carbon cutout, cliched characters that had no personality to them. They had no reason for me to give a crap about them whatsoever. And they all suffered through the same tropes and cliches I've seen other characters in movies go through. And there's not one shed of creativity in this movie. And there's too good of a cast in this movie, except for the lead, Ben Platt. I know this guy's been a decent actor over the last couple of years. He was great in Book of Mormon. He's in the Pitch Perfect movies. He's been good in some other things, but I'm sorry. You can't cast a 27-year-old to play a teenager in high school, and if you can't make him look like a high school student, and they do a terrible job at it. I can believe Steve Buscemi as a high school student with that meme more than I could Ben Platt. And Evan Hansen himself is a character you're supposed to root for, wanted to succeed, but the movie is asking you to root for this guy using someone's suicide for his own gain. And there's no resolution or consequence to any of that whatsoever. Fuck that. That's not only crossing a dangerous path, but it gives people with anxiety disorders and mental health issues a really bad name. And Platt doesn't help it because he's overacting way too hard. So it not only doesn't help that this guy is way too old for the part, but he acts like a freaking creep. And yeah, you want to know why nepotism is the times when nepotism doesn't work, and I totally agree with people that think it doesn't work. Ben Platt's father is the producer of this movie, Mark Platt. So yeah, you can add that to the people that should not be acting just because they're family. I mean, this is not something that you want to give to a guy who, is unlikable in so many ways. And it's a shame because the rest of the cast of the movie is fine. Caitlin Dever from Booksmart. I mean, they're good actors, I should say, but there's nothing that they're given in this movie. Caitlin Dever is a really good actress, being wasted in here. Amanda Stolberg from The Hate U Give being wasted. Danny Pino being wasted. Julianne Moore being wasted. Amy Adams really being wasted. I mean, what happened to her career? Good Lord. I mean, the social issues the film tries to work with and handles are so poorly done in here, and it gives people with anxiety disorders, mental health, and youth suicide a bad name, and there's no remorse or consequences to the characters whatsoever, and the movie believes more in the happy ending than actually being honest and truthful about the situation, and you don't get that in this movie at all. It's disgusting too visually. I feel like you're watching the first Twilight movie at times while watching this, because it looks so gray and grainy. There's no vibrancy. There's no colorful elements to the movie. It's like the movie is so emo and has no real shred of hope or happiness whatsoever. It's a terrible looking movie. Even the music by the guys who did La La Land and The Greatest Showman are terrible in this. And this is a 2+ hour movie, and there's no reason for this to be a 2-hour long movie, since there's nothing redeemable here at all. I mean, this is just a disaster on so many levels. It's a terrible movie. The music can't save it. You're forced to watch this more than talented cast be wasted for the material that's given to this film. It's a terrible movie. Dear Evan Hansen, my number 10 worst movie of the decade so far. Number 9, I'm kind of a cheat here. I'm throwing all these movies together, even though the latter two are definitely worse than the first one. Morbius, Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter, the Sony non-Spider-Man movie universe, but we want to throw in a little bit of Spider-Man to make you think that it's part of the universe that is part of the MCU, but it really is not. And yeah, Morbius, I'm willing to let it slide because there were at least some fun elements in that movie where I could say, okay, it's not great, it's a bad movie, but there are things about it that I think are laughably bad in it. Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter, there's no excuse for those movies there. Those are films that they over-abuse the capabilities that Sony was allowed to get from Disney for using the Spider-Man character in their movies, and they're just taking it and just preventing these really terrible movies, especially Madam Web. Madam Web is a film that, once again, like Dear Evan Hansen, wastes so many good talented actors: Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney, Celeste O'Connor, Isabella Merced, Lola Kirk. Is it Lola Kirk or is it Josiah Mammoth from Girls, and Mike Epps is also in the movie too. Just so much good talent in this film, being absolutely 100% wasted on a terrible film where they're trying to create their own Spider-Man memorability to it, and there's just nothing there. I mean, the line readings in here are so terrible. Adam Scott's in the movie too. I like Adam Scott. This director is not a bad director, but everything that they're doing in these movies is just an insult, and just Madam Web was a film that was like, you did not like any single one of these characters whatsoever. They were so lifeless, they were so up their ass that they thought they were better than everybody else, and it's inexcusable how they handle that. Kraven the Hunter is bad because, it's like the movie is afraid to admit that Kraven the Hunter can be a badass, but no, we want to make this movie about this guy who does not really do a whole lot with his powers. This was the first R-rated Spider-Man movie, non-Spider-Man movie in the series, so you would think this would be adding an extra layer of intrigue to it, but no. What we get is Russell Crowe being wasted and Ariana DeBose, once again, wasting her talents on a bad movie. It's not the first time she'll be on this list. It's the first time she'll be on this list, but I'm telling you right now, it won't be the last time she's made it on this list, because I'm sorry. I've praised this woman, but you got to pick some better scripts, man, because this is getting ridiculous. The bad movies that you've been attached to since you won that Oscar, and in this movie, she's so bad that it doesn't even look like she's even doing her lines in this movie. It literally looks like something out of AI. Now, the Venom movies are very much in the same category, but I didn't put those in there because I did watch all 3 of the Venom movies not too long ago, and I'll say this. They're passable. They're not great, they're not bad, they're passable. They're movies that, if there's literally nothing else on, and you're just tuning on FX one day, and all 3 movies come on, it's just like, I've got 6 hours to kill, I'll watch them, and they're not terrible, but they're definitely not great movies. I mean, Tom Hardy is at least putting his effort into it. You can tell they're trying to do something with that character, even though it's trying to do something outside of the Spider-Man movies as a whole, and I gotta give them credit where credit's due. They were at least trying with those movies. I don't know what they were doing with these 3 films here, but yeah, there's no reason these movies should be bad, and those Venom movies should be passable in general. Well, like, it seemed like they were more interested in making the Venom movies as good as decent as they were, than actually trying to save Morbius, Madam Web, or Kraven the Hunter. And I'm so glad that this is the end of this whole thing, and hopefully that they're serious about this, and we're not going to get another one of these movies that's completely out of the Spider-Man universe. Just, if you're going to do this again, keep it within the Spider-Man universe. That's all we ask of you to do, and make them good movies, for God's sakes, and stop wasting these good actors on these terrible movies. I mean, good lord. Anyway, that's number 9 on my list, a tie of Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven the Hunter, with most of the emphasis on Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter. Hey, Ariana DeVos, good to see you back on this list again. We were only one movie away from the last thing you win. Number 8 on the list is Argylle, another movie that has a lot of talented people involved in it, and not just with the actors, but the director, Matthew Vaughn. Matthew Vaughn was a reliable name with Kick-Ass and Kingsman before this movie came out, and boy, did he really sell himself out for this one. Apple just gave him a blank check for $200 million and said, do whatever you want to do, and we'll give it to you. And yeah, was it really worth it, dude, to make a bad movie like this? I mean, this movie, it's unbelievable how bad this film was. I didn't think anything was going to top the movies that I had for the worst movies of 2024, but boy, this movie was definitely closing in on that. I mean, this was a really, really bad movie, man. This is a film that just had so many good actors and a story that really just made no sense whatsoever, and was mainly focusing more on how many stupid twists we could throw out there. How many more twists and turns can we throw in here? After the 4th or 5th one, it's just like, okay, you're being ridiculous on this. All these great actors being wasted on this movie. Bryce Dallas Howard, John Cena, Catherine O'Hara, the aforementioned Ariana DeVos, Samuel L. Jackson, Sam Rockwell. I mean, just a waste of talent all across the board here. And all for a movie that Matthew Vaughn made because he wanted to make a movie about his cat. That's literally what the focus of this movie was. That he wanted to make a movie centering around his cat. And the cat really does not have a whole lot of a purpose in this movie whatsoever. This is a terrible movie, man. Just an example of why we need to stop. Apple needs to stop making these movies that are not going to make any money. In fact, all these streaming services should stop spending all this money on these bloated productions that are never going to make money back. I mean, just as I'm recording this, we're a week away from The Electric State, which has a $320 million budget to it. And yeah, and it's got Chris Pratt in it, who's kind of an action star, and the guys who did Avengers Endgame and the new Avengers movie coming up, the Russo brothers. But then Millie Bobby Brown is in here, and it would help if the movie was actually pretty good, but the reviews I've seen from it look absolutely terrible, and the movie itself doesn't look that bad in particular, but I'll tell you this, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing it because this might be a contender for worst movie of the year if it actually turns out as bad as I've seen it's going to be. But, you know, people have said that before and it doesn't turn out that way. But then again, we'll just wait to see what happens here. But it just goes to show you my point here. And Apple really needs to stop spending all this money on films that are never going to make their money back because they're not good movies. The only good movies they've made are stuff like Spirited and Killers of the Flower Moon. And then last year, what did they have? They had Argylle, they had Fly Me to the Moon, they had Wolves. All these movies that probably could have worked, but you know, you're releasing them straight to Apple TV Plus. How are you supposed to make any money whatsoever if you're only putting it on the streaming service and your films cost over $200 million? That's not a structural way to run your company. That's a way to put your company in the black pretty quickly. And yeah, you know, I'll give Disney this. I hate that they're stopping certain projects from getting made for Disney Plus only, but I mean, when you're spending all that money on projects and you know you're not going to make any cash off of it, I mean, why even bother doing it then? Like, what's the point of sending this stuff to Disney Plus when you could just send it to theaters or send it to DVD so you can get people to buy it from there? I mean, common sense needs to come into play with these streaming services. And yeah, Argylle was just a film where no common sense was put into it whatsoever. This was just a really bad movie, a movie that has been done to death so many times before and done much better. But yeah, this movie is terrible. Avoid Argylle like the plague, and I hope Matthew Vaughn hasn't killed whatever was left of his dignity after this, because man, talk about a film that killed whatever was left of your hopes and dreams at this point. The fact that he had the nerve to say, "Oh, and this is tied into Kingsman," it's just like unbelievable. So, Argylle's my 8th worst movie of the decade so far. Moving on to number 7, we have another series of films that came out in the first half of the decade, and you probably have forgotten all about them, but let me tell you something. For anyone who has seen it, and someone like me, I certainly have not forgotten it, and not the way the film has intended it to be. The 365 Days Trilogy. What is the 365 Days Trilogy? Picture this story. You have a young Warsaw woman in a spiritless relationship falling for a dominant Sicilian who imprisons her and grants 365 days to fall in love with her. That's the plot of the movie. Guess what kind of fan fiction this was? This was 50 Shades of Grey fan fiction. You know, just how 50 Shades of Grey was Twilight fan fiction. This is a trend that I am so scared that this is becoming a thing now because, oh my god, I could not believe how bad this movie was in 2020. The first one was, because yeah, this is a terrible movie with some good cinematography, but other than that though, the rest of the movie is garbage. I mean, the story is unbelievably offensive. This whole concept is just, the synopsis alone is why I hate the movie so much. The whole movie wants you to support a kidnapper because he wants to bang his kidnapper, and it's just like, in what world does this make any sense whatsoever? It's like they tried to make this movie because everybody couldn't stop talking about how bad the relationship in 50 Shades of Grey was. Because, yeah, this makes the relationship between Christian Grey and Anastasia much more convincing. And it's just like, this guy treats this woman like complete and utter garbage, and she's expected to be smitten by him by the end of the movie. And, yeah, like, it's because of movies like this where they have two good-looking people that thinks it's A-okay to do this, and this is why I get so upset about, you know, the Me Too movement, the cancel culture, because these people are willing to make everybody else seem like monsters and freaks. But when movies like this come out, those same people, when they lose their shit about these celebrities when they do this, they shut the fuck up. They don't say a damn word, and wouldn't even throw shit at this, because it puts women back even further down the road than what 50 Shades of Grey did. Like, Lifetime and Hallmark Channel romantic movies aren't as insane with these absurdities levels here. And those sex scenes are not sexy whatsoever. Softcore porn on Skinamax was much more hotter and entertaining than the shit that's in this movie. Like, seriously, I kept hearing about how intense the sex scenes are in this movie, and yeah, they're certainly graphic, but that doesn't make them entertaining or interesting. And again, I hate that I have to compliment 50 Shades of Grey, but the sex scenes in that movie were at least trying to be visually pleasing and interesting, unlike this garbage here. And just when you thought that this could have been just settled into one movie, no. We had to make two of these movies. Three films over the course of 2 years. And it's literally the same movie over and over and over again. It's the same storyline. It's the same thing with these two people that you do not give two shits about. And like, again, why do I want to be here? Why am I even watching this? What, because you just put this on Netflix? You know, Netflix has a lot of other good stuff on there that you could be watching right now besides whatever the hell these 365-day movies were trying to be like. Like, I don't know who gets off on these movies, why they watch these movies because of the success because of how successful they were. I mean, they've made 3 of these movies, so some sick fucks out there were watching this, and I'm sorry, but no. You can't make movies like this and expect us to be completely smitten by it and just accept the fact that this dude kidnaps this woman for no other reason because I want you to fall in love with me. Like, that's not how this works. At least in Beauty and the Beast, when that happens, when Belle says, you know, I'll take my father's place, and, you know, the spell that the Beast is under, you know, he has to kiss the woman, he has to kiss the girl before the roses fall off. There was at least a purpose to it, and they built the relationship up. And of course, the Beast wasn't, you know, doing ungodly things to Belle, like, you know, these outrageous sex scenes like these movies do. But that's a storyline that makes sense. That's a storyline that actually could probably happen in real life, possibly, because the time period in the original Beauty and the Beast is never really specified. It could be like several weeks, several months, but no, these movies are just everything about these movies are just so wrong. Everything about these movies and how they present this thing about, like, how, oh, this is whimsical magic. And it's just like, no, there ain't nothing whimsical or magical about any of this bullshit. These movies are terrible. These are absolutely abysmally bad. I want to believe that that people have completely forgotten about these movies, and if they have, God bless them for it, man. Because, man, if you have not seen this movie, do yourself a favor and consider yourself lucky. Don't ever watch these movies. These movies are bad. I had to watch them because I had to put up reviews for them. I still regret the day of me doing that. So yeah, of the 365 Days trilogy, the 7th worst movie I've seen in the decade so far. Moving on to number 6, another bad movie that joins in the category of Dear Evan Hansen as giving autistic people a really bad name for themselves, and that is Sia's Music, which, I mean, this was a movie this is one of those movies where, you know, you look at it, you see it, and it's just like, well, it doesn't look too bad in general. Plus, Sia is a pretty damn good musician, and yeah, you don't think about it at first, but then you watch the movie, and then you realize that, this is much worse than I imagined. And yeah, these people that said that this was bad, I can totally see where they're coming from now. You follow this newly sober drug dealer who becomes the sole guardian of her half-sister Music, a teenage nonverbal autistic girl. And yeah, this is a movie that is like it's one of the most detestable movies I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, shame on everybody who made this movie. Shame on MGM for funding this movie. Shame on Sia for blowing all of her goodwill and putting her name on this crap that makes Simple Jack from Tropic Thunder look like a legitimate masterpiece. Shame on the Golden Globes. I mean, for the Golden Globes, this is ridiculous. I mean, that was the low point before they reached the low point by not only saying that this needed 1 nomination, but 2 and 1 for Best Picture. It's just like, get out of here, man. Like, I get it. Best Picture, musical, or comedy. You don't have to put musicals in there. I mean, you don't have to put one of these. You don't have to put every musical in there. You could put other comedies that were much more successful in that category, and that wouldn't have been a problem. But no, they put it in there, and it's just like it's a bad movie, man. It's a really bad movie. It's an insulting piece of garbage to watch, and just the bad memories of watching that movie after hearing what everybody had said about it. Yeah. There's no excuse for how bad this movie is. Music, yeah, it's a terrible movie. It's number 6 on my list of the worst movies of the decade so far. Here at the halfway point, number 5 on my list of the worst movies of the decade so far, a movie that I just saw not too long ago, and that is Francis Ford Coppola's passion project, Megalopolis. You know, a film that had been in development all the way back into the 1970s. I mean, this was a film he wanted to make back when he was making Apocalypse Now, but it went through production hell, went through several different problems, and so he had to basically spend the money himself to make the film, and the end result is a colossal clusterfuck of a movie that was very high up there on my list of the worst movies of 2024, and it's very much high up there as the bottom of the barrel for the movies of the decade so far. You have a film that's set in an alternate 21st century New York City, restyled as New Rome, following a visionary architect played by Adam Driver as he clashes with the corrupt Mayor Franklin Cicero, played by Giancarlo Esposito, who opposes Catalina's plans to revitalize New Rome by building the futuristic utopia Megalopolis. The film draws on Roman history, particularly the Catiline conspiracy of 63 BC and the decay of the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. And there are brief flashes of promise in the movie, but it's not enough to save the film. I mean, with passion projects as a whole, 9 times out of 10, they turn out to be pretty bad. As much as everybody wants to try to make the movie that they've been wanting to make for a long time, most of the time it never really comes together. And on top of that, all the production problems behind the scenes, Coppola with his things going on right now legally, and of course the terrible marketing campaign where Coppola had the balls to take these pull quotes from his movies and try to fabricate these fake reviews to make it seem like that, we're the ones who can't understand the genius that Francis Ford Coppola has. No, Francis Ford Coppola had the genius back in the day. I mean, the 70s and 80s were his top heyday, but when you're putting a trailer out there and you consider Bram Stoker's Dracula to be a groundbreaking masterpiece on the level of The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, get the fuck out of here, man. Again, another movie that wastes a lot of really good, talented people in here. You know, Natalie Emmanuel, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, John Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, Talia Shire, Dustin Hoffman, Chloe Fineman, James Remare, D.B. Sweeney. There's a lot of good people involved in this movie, and at times there are brief flashes of promise. Sometimes the visuals look pretty cool, but it's the story and the runtime and everything else that just completely ruins any hope of this movie going forward. I mean, at this point, it's probably best for Francis Ford Coppola to just, step off the side, leave it to the future of Hollywood going forward to make the better movies, man, because your time is pretty much up at this point. I mean, you haven't made a decent movie in over 30 years. I would even say Bram Stoker's Dracula is his last great movie he made. I mean, it's not a great movie overall, but it certainly is a better movie than stuff like Jack. It's a better movie than stuff like Tetro. Well, then again, maybe The Rainmaker, probably would throw that in there. Rainmaker's not that bad of a movie, but yeah, Megalopolis is definitely not one of his masterpieces, and I'm not going to be shocked at all if this movie just dies and never is mentioned ever again after this point. So, Megalopolis, number 5 on my list of the worst movies of the decade so far. Speaking of movies that I just saw in the last year, number 4 on my list of the worst movies of the decade so far, the worst movie of 2024, Harold and the Purple Crayon. The movie that basically took the original children's story about a little boy who has a magical purple crayon and just took it back behind the woodshed, did unspeakable things to it, and turned it into a bad late 2000s 20th Century Fox hybrid comedy, fish out of water comedy, where let's take the kid out of the animated world and put him into the real world, but let's not make him a kid anymore. Let's make him Zachary Levi. Let's make him Shazam, but not the good Shazam. Let's make him the obnoxious, annoying Shazam from Fury of the Gods, who has not aged well at all. And yeah, this movie definitely feels like a film that was intended for that time period where you had like Fat Albert and Alvin and the Chipmunks and the Smurfs and Marmaduke. A movie that I thought we were way past that point. But then again, when your studio is run by Tom Rothman, the man who was behind that decade when those movies came out, should not really be that much of a surprise at all. And again, I mean, talk about a downward spiral for Zachary Levi, man. I mean, there's so many things that have happened to him in the last year that just completely took him out of the A-list game and just dropped him down. But, Zooey Deschanel deserves a lot better than this. Lil Howley deserves a lot better. Alfred Molina, Jermaine Clement, playing one of the worst villains ever, one of the most obvious villains ever, but the characters are just way too stupid to realize, oh, this guy might be evil. No, you seem like a good guy. Here, take the piece of the crayon that you want. Oh, and I see you've got a white van behind you. You think we can go in there real quick without the windows and all that? Like, just unbelievable that they still made movies like this. I couldn't believe that this got the big release that it did. This is a type of film that should have been sent straight to Disney Plus or sent to a streaming service. This is the type of film that Apple TV should have on there, because there's no reason why this should have gone to a theater. This is a mess of a film. This is a terrible movie. It was the worst movie I saw last year. It's number 4 on my list of the worst of the decade so far, Harold and the Purple Crayon. Heading into the top 3, and we just looked at the worst movie I saw in 2024. Here's the worst movie I saw in 2021. Number 3, Cinderella, the Camila Cabello version for Amazon Prime. Again, another streaming service on this list. And anybody who ever shunned or criticized me for praising the 2015 Cinderella movie, the one that Kenneth Branagh on Disney made, I want a full apology right now, because this one was terrible. This movie is everything I hate about modern culture. They took a story that could work in a modern setting. I mean, the Cinderella story did a pretty good job at that. But this one tries way too hard to be culturally relevant to the time of its release. It tries to be trendy instead of just being a timeless story. It falls for the same annoying movie cliches and tropes you see in family films. It never shuts up. It can never have mercy for the people who want to root for the main character, because it has to be loud and obnoxious. This was the movie where I finally just had to admit, okay, you're right. James Corden is a fucking terrible person. Because, man, this movie will make you hate him, because he never shuts up, and he is just absolutely abysmal to watch in this movie. And I've been supportive of him over the years, from stuff like Into the Woods. I liked him in that. I liked him as Peter Rabbit. I mean, but this and the Late Late Show, just everything that he's done, besides those 2 things I mentioned that were good, just shows you that, man, talk about somebody who completely just removed all of the things that made him talented in the first place and just turns him into the loud, obnoxious asshole for no reason whatsoever, because he's a loud, obnoxious Brit. We sent Russell Brand back to England, so we have to do this again with this guy here. And I want to give Camila Cabello the credit for the time she tried to save this movie, but it just wasn't enough to save it. The only thing that was redeemable about the film, surprisingly, was Billy Porter as the fairy godmother. I mean, they used him the right way, and when he was on screen, he really was like the film's fairy godmother in real life, because he saves the movie from with the low moments of quality in the film. Like, he's the one thing that you take away from this film that's just like, Okay, there's one thing I'm actually glad I saw this film for. But other than that, this film is terrible. This is a disaster of a film. Loud, obnoxious, not funny, not engaging, not interesting at all. It's a mess. It's a mess on so many levels, and it's the worst thing I saw in 2021. And it's number 3 on my list of the worst movies of the decade. Moving on to number 2, the second worst movie of the decade so far, is a film that I didn't even have as my worst of the year. I mean, it's definitely very much up there, but it was actually further down on my list when I look back on it, number 7 to be exact. But man, this movie just continues to irk me to this very day, ever since the day I saw it, and that movie is Lightyear. This movie is pretty bad. Pretty bad. And it's one of those movies where it gets you with the marketing. The marketing did a very good job of trying to sell you on this movie. Like, it was supposed to be a different kind of film that wasn't supposed to be connected to the Toy Story movies. And, there's definitely stuff in this movie that did work. There was stuff about it that I did kind of enjoy. But this is Good Dinosaur Cars 2 levels of terrible. This is that bad of a movie. It is that bad of a disaster of a film. And right from the get-go, the movie digs its own grave by having a title card that's literally telling you that this is Andy's favorite movie. And this film was the reason why he got a Buzz Lightyear toy in 1995. But one problem with that. This is not a movie that would have come out in 1995, let alone prior to that in 1986, depending on who you talk to. Some say it's a movie from the 80s, some say it's a movie from the 90s, but either way you look at it, there is nothing about this movie that screams any of those decades. This is a 2022 movie trying to disguise itself as an old-school, gritty sci-fi movie with literally half of the movie, when nearly half of the movie is anything but that. There are very rare few moments in this movie where that old-school, gritty sci-fi movie feel is in here. A lot of the characters in this movie are absolutely forgettable or annoying. The only one that has that irredeemable qualities to him, Lightyear, played by Chris Evans, and Socks, who really was one of the highlights of the movie, and I like the Hawthorns in the movie, mostly because they're played by Uzo Aduba and Kiki Palmer, but everybody else is wasted in here. You got Taika Waititi playing a character who's just being the obnoxious, comedic side character. Isaiah Whitlock as the new commander has nothing special except he's the dickhead commander. And James Brolin as Zurg is very underwhelming, and we will get to Zurg in a moment because, oh my god, like that... That's what pushed this movie to just being, okay, you're one of the worst things ever. The script is terrible. There's moments where nothing exciting happens, and it just feels like you're bored for a good majority of the movie. And there are some good emotional moments. Like, I like seeing, Alicia having a family through the various time jumps. There's a same-sex kiss scene that people got pissed off about because, oh no, you got two people kissing for 2 seconds of a movie. Something that less than 5 seconds happens in the movie. And it's just like, just stop getting pissy about this stuff, people. But when Buzz finds out Alicia's dead and others, there are so many good ideas to experiment with here. And the fact that every time Buzz tries hyperspace, 4 years pass. And by the time he succeeds, 62 years have passed. And that's a good concept to work with here. That's a good idea to use the idea of time travel to a very interesting advantage here. And again, I might be over-exaggerating a bit on here because the first 2 acts aren't really terrible. But there's just nothing there that got me excited or hyped for this movie. Most of it is just either okay, bland overuses of quotes from the Toy Story movies, and once in a while the occasional chuckle or two. And honestly, as a matinee, it probably would have been fine, but no. The third act had to come in and say, "Oh, you're enjoying this movie, huh? Well, how about, let's see how you feel when we show you what happens next." Because, man, the third act of the movie is where this thing goes careening off the cliff so quickly. We finally get Buzz versus Zurg. Zurg kidnaps Buzz, takes him back to the ship, only to realize who he really is. And guess what? It's Buzz Lightyear from another timeline in which he actually successfully went through hyperspace and he escaped Burnside's men. And you probably stopped after you heard that Zurg is a Buzz Lightyear from an alternate timeline. You were most likely, like me, slowly thinking to yourself, oh, fuck off. I mean, Zurg is another Buzz Lightyear from another timeline. They took the main antagonist of the universe and pulled the twist villain bullshit. They did the same thing in Lego Movie 2 where the villain actually turns out to be an older version of Emmett. But that's different because they weren't taking an already established villain and completely pulling a rug from behind you with that stupid-ass twist. This is a twist, and it makes me so mad when I saw this, and I was about to walk out of the movie for a bit. Like, as soon as that reveal came out, I jumped out of the theater, I went outside of where the theater was at, and I I was just screaming internally, just like, oh my god, like, not to that extreme, but something like that. But this is a terrible, terrible twist of the and it doesn't help that the plan that the alternate Lightyear has is terrible. It's a ripoff of the bad guy's plan from, of all things, the terrible Lost in Space movie from 1998. This movie had the balls to rip that off. This whole movie creates all these plot holes and confusing scenarios that make it seem like such a gigantic clusterfuck of a film, and it makes no sense, especially with this backstory that has already been established. I mean, if you want to see this movie, just go watch it done better with the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command TV series. That show was exactly what I think of when I think of Andy wanting a Buzz Lightyear toy so much. That show did everything that Lightyear should have done. It expanded the world of Buzz Lightyear, explored different universes, had an assortment of likable characters, was funny, appealed to both kids and adults. That was the far superior version of Lightyear. But of course, apparently Disney and Pixar want to pretend that never existed, and I'm still thoroughly convinced that this movie was made so the people can say, hey, you got your Buzz Lightyear Star Command series, so shut up. And yeah, like that, the ending of this movie just really irked me and just hurt me and just really, there was no coming back after that point. It's just like this movie is bad. This is a bad movie. This is one of the worst things Pixar has ever made, and that says a lot because Pixar very rarely misses. And when they miss badly. I mean, this is unbelievably bad. Like, this is a film that is so terrible. I was so excited for this movie when it was coming out, and to be let down like that, it really frustrated me, and it even depressed me. That's how bad I felt about this movie. This film is unbelievably awful, and it still has not gotten better in the 3 years since it's come out. It's still a terrible movie. It's still a film that is so boring at times. It tries to pull this stupid twist and just, like, it fails miserably at it, no matter how much time has passed. I mean, what more can I say, man? Lightyear is terrible, and it definitely deserves the second spot on my list of the worst movies of the decade so far. It's that bad of a movie. But as bad as this is, it's nowhere near as bad as the #1 worst movie of the decade so far, and that is The Flash. I've gone off so many times about how bad I hate this movie, and yeah, this is terrible. This is a film that people were so, like, this is a film that I've never seen a movie that's trying so hard to sell the film while also trying to pretend that the people behind it weren't all complete 110% scumbags. Ezra Miller, David Zaslav, they tried so hard to sell this movie as the future of the DC cinematic universe, and boy, did you fail badly on that front. They tried to sucker you in with bringing back Michael Keaton from Batman. It's cool to see Michael Keaton as Batman. Yeah, I'll give him that. But there was a movie called Batgirl where you were going to have him in that film, but then you decided to completely toss that movie away because you wanted to make tax write-offs. So yeah, that's strike one against you. Strike two was trying to convince everybody that Ezra Miller was a good guy, even though the dude is clearly a monster and should never be working in Hollywood again. This guy should be rotting in a jail cell from after everything that he had done. But the fact that they've tried so hard to say that, no, he's a good guy. We had a conversation. He's fine. You got nothing to worry about. No. You can't do that. And strike three was trying to get everybody to come out and say good things about the movie. They brought Tom Cruise out to say, dude, I saw a work print of this movie and it's amazing. A work print. Yeah, that work print probably was really good to you when Warner Brothers was shoveling billions and millions of dollars to you to say nice things about the movie. Like, I'm still fully convinced that the people that praise this movie got paid hundreds of millions of dollars to basically just say good things about it from the studio. Because Warner Brothers, they're a scumbaggy studio right now, and it still has not changed in the 3 years since we first had the initial thoughts of, maybe David Zaslav is not a good studio head. Yeah, he's still a scumbag, and this was definitely his magnum opus of trying to sell this film that was clearly bad from the get-go, and not even with him, but the director, Andy Muschietti, had the nerve to come out and say about the CG, about the visual effects in the movie. No, it's okay. The visual effects are supposed to be terrible. In what world would somebody have the nerve to come out and say the visual effects are supposed to be terrible? The Marvel Cinematic Universe still has better visual effects than anything in this regurgitated garbage. And on top of that, they trying to sucker you in with that with all those things we were talking about before. You know, bringing Michael Keaton back. You know, George Clooney comes back as Batman in this movie. That's actually something I thought was pretty cool. Give him a chance to come back in there and allow him to get a better storyline than what he had with Batman and Robin. But when you throw in Nicolas Cage as Superman, something that people have been wanting to see for years, and you have a scene that looks so terrible and looks so poorly put together, and a scene that looks so terrible that even Nicolas Cage himself doesn't even remember shooting scenes for that part. But then to have the nerve and audacity to throw Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater as Superman and Supergirl, only to have them get destroyed 2 seconds later, like everything this movie's awful. This is an awful film. I can't believe that there were people still trying to defend this movie even today. The director just recently came out and is still baffled by the fact that, well, I can't imagine why nobody wanted to go see this movie. I mean, what I thought is, I'm proud of the work that I made. It's just like, dude, read the room. Watch the film. Do you realize, like, I get it. You directed the film. It's your baby. You want to pretend like every movie you've made is a good movie, but I'm sorry. You have to be smart enough to know after a certain period of time that, you know, looking back on it, maybe we made some mistakes on this movie. Maybe this wasn't as good as we think it was, but you're never going to hear anybody say that. At least not with this movie per se. And like, I mean, this was a terrible movie. This was one of the worst things I've ever seen in the years I've covered movies. In the 20 years I've been reviewing movies for this show and the posts that I do regularly, and you know, just in 30 years in general of going to the movies, I've never had a movie that I hated so much that I was just ready to like do unspeakable things to physical copies of the movie. I literally bought a copy of this movie to destroy it with this cane I bought out of all places at an Ollie. It's not an Ollie's, and a World of Values, which was only like $2, so it wasn't really costing me anything. And I bought the Flash on DVD Blu-ray, and I was gonna smash it up for a video, do it for the end of my worst of the year list, but then, you know, time and other things got in the way, and I just ended up not doing it. I ended up selling it. So hey, somebody wanted it, more power to you, man. Find more enjoyment in it than I did, because yeah, I don't want that movie anywhere near me again. But the movie is bad, man. Like, this is the film that I think really was the nail in the coffin for the DCEU. I mean, Black Adam was not that great. Neither was Aquaman. But you know what? You know, there was at least some films in there that were passable. I like Blue Beetle a lot. I'm glad to see that he's going to be in the new set of DC films. But I'm really excited to see what James Gunn does with this new DC universe coming up. I'm excited for Superman. I can't wait to see what he does with it. I think the marketing has been excellent. It's one of the most anticipated movies I have for the summer. I mean, I've got shirts already for that movie, and the thing hasn't even come out yet. That's how excited I am about this movie, because I could trust a guy like James Gunn, because, you know, he knows what he's doing. He knew what he was doing with the Guardians movies. It looks like he knows what he's doing with Superman. Like, I can't wait to see what he does here. But The Flash was just the bottom of the barrel, man. Like, Batman vs. Superman was a bad film. I mean, that was the Phantom Menace. This is the Rise of Skywalker to me. Like, this is the film where it's just like, wow, you completely destroyed everything that you had for this, and just ruined it. And just like everything about this film was just so awful. Like, nothing about it worked. It's an ungodly mess of a film. It's a terrible film. And yeah, it's still the worst thing I've seen so far this decade. It's the thing that I was so offended by, just by the fact that they were trying so hard to save the film, and just everything they tried to throw this thing so many lifeguards, so many life preservers, and it just failed on every single level of it. The Flash, terrible movie, easily the worst thing I've seen this decade so far, and it's not even close, man. I mean, Lightyear may be close, but yeah, this is the bottom of the barrel. This is the worst thing I've seen in the first 5 years of this decade so far. So there you go. That's my list of the 10 worst movies of the decade so far. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of the worst films you've seen this decade so far? And down in the description below, of course. Let me know your thoughts there. We'll do another one of these. Probably, I think I have another one coming up in April, if I'm not mistaken, or No, actually, no. We have one at the end of the month here, and that's going to be the best movies I've seen in the last 20 years. I'll look back at of all the 20 years that I've done this show, and look back on the best movies that I've seen over that 20-year span. And it's been mostly movies I've talked about before, so I mean, this one should not be that hard of a list to put together per se. But that's coming up at the end of the month, and then the next one after that, I think, is the 20th anniversary special I've got coming up for the weekend of the 13th. So definitely be on the lookout for that one. But next week, we're back to reviewing some newer movies, and a pretty good weekend of movies coming up this weekend. And we've got the long-awaited release of The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, which it looks like I'm going to have to rush out to another theater to see it, and not my regular theater. But luckily, this theater is a little bit further away from where I usually go to, but it's not too far away. So I'll try to I'm going to definitely try to get around to that. But I'm also going to check out the Plankton movie, which just came out on Netflix yesterday. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one. And I'll have my review for Flow, this year's Best Animated Feature winner at the Oscars. I'll see if it definitely is worth the award, and if it's as good as everyone says it is, which I assume it is, because, yeah, it looks like a film that I probably would really enjoy. But we'll delve into that film. We'll delve into all three of those coming up next week on the show. But if you want to see my thoughts on the best movies of the decade so far, please go ahead and take a look at the playlist on the next page, and also check out that episode I was talking about. And with all that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.